Hey, it's Matt. Before I start this video, I wanted to drop in to let you know that my YouTube course is now open for enrollment. Starting a YouTube channel is frustrating. It's hard to know where to begin, what gear to buy, and how to make videos that people will actually click on. That's why I made my course, Master YouTube. It's your roadmap to building a YouTube channel with integrity. I walk you step by step through my process for making videos. You'll learn how to come up with compelling ideas, write and film high-quality videos with the equipment you have, and learn a proven strategy for how to grow an audience, even if you have 0 subscribers. After all, that's how many I started with. So the course is going to be open for enrollment for the next 2 weeks. And so if you want to sign up and learn all about how to make great videos and join a community of fellow creators, then go to slowgrowth.com/masteryoutube to learn more. There's a link down in the description below. So this right here is my tiny home studio, and considering everything that I do in it, it's pretty small. It's actually, I actually don't know how big it is. One sec. So it is 140 square feet, which is really small considering the fact that this is my production studio where I edit my videos, do all my creative work, and store all of my gear. And there is a lot of gear. And so in this video, I wanna give you a tour of my tiny home studio, show you around the place, introduce you to my new desk setup for 2022, and how I've had to get really clever with how I store things. So let's get into it. Since I had to do a lot with a little, I had to get really intentional with how I set things up and the different furniture and pieces that I brought into it. You can find links to everything that I show you in this video in the description below. Okay, so let's start with my new desk setup. I recently replaced my 2017 iMac Pro for a 2021 MacBook Pro with the Apple M1 Max chip that's connected to a Samsung monitor. So I try not to upgrade my gear unless I absolutely have to, or unless it's really gonna give me improved performance, hence the reason why I held on to a 2017 iMac Pro for 5 years. But now that I have upgraded to this MacBook Pro, surprisingly, it performs so much better than my old iMac. This has improved my post-production workflow a lot. I can now edit videos as large as RED files seamlessly without needing to compress them down any further. And now that I live between the US and Australia, I can throw my main editing computer in my backpack whenever we need to hit the road. My desk and chair are both from a company called Poly & Bark. They're really affordable, but the quality is top-notch. My laptop is sitting on the classic Rain design stand. And of course, you've got to have a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson action figure to help motivate you during the day. Let's move on to my storage cabinet next to my desk. This is where I store documents and notebooks. I've got my cables organized into little baggies down at the bottom. This is a really simple but effective way for me to organize all of the different cables that I have. And at the top of this cabinet, I've got all of my hard drives. So a lot of people ask me how I store my video projects. Well, all the current projects that I'm working on are always stored on my MacBook Pro's 8TB internal solid state hard drive. And then once I'm done with them, I back them up onto 2 of these Western Digital drives. You can see it says YouTube 9 there. I've actually got 9 of these drives with YouTube projects filled up on them. A lot of people ask me why I don't like RAID drives. For me, RAID drives, they're like mini servers. They're really loud, they're large, and they're expensive. And so for me, I want a more portable solution, and this Western Digital drive does the trick. I've actually just created duplicate drives, one for the US and one for Australia. So I'll always have a backup of my projects wherever I go, and I don't need to travel with 10 different hard drives. So eventually I'm gonna drill a hole in the back of this cabinet so I can set up a charging station for my batteries and devices inside of it. But for now, I just keep a surge protector tucked underneath the cabinet. Okay, so this is really cool. This right here is my very first camera. I thought that I had thrown this out as an overeager minimalist, but my mom had literally just found this in her attic a couple weeks ago. And so I was so excited when I was reunited with it after all of these years. A lot of people these days are obsessed with camera gear, and that's totally cool. I get it, I like to nerd out about that stuff as well, but what I have a problem with are people who don't get started because they don't think that they have the right gear. And to that I say, take a look at my first camera. This thing shoots potato quality, but what I do remember about having this camera was just how excited I was to create, to make projects, to come up with things and create something from nothing. And so if you're struggling to know which camera to start with, try this. I actually have a second desk for this room that I store under the couch. I use it for overhead shots and more instructional type videos like when I make my courses. It took me a really long time to find a good portable desk like this that was actually good quality, but I found an awesome company from the UK that makes this sawhorse desk. And finally, we make our way to the closet. As someone that's pretty obsessive about organization, this was my favorite project of the studio. I store most of my gear in this Ikea dresser. I line the bottom of each drawer with a black toolbox liner, and I've separated the sections with black bamboo drawer dividers. This helps to protect my delicate gear, holds everything in place, and gives me enough flexibility to adapt the layout as my gear changes over time. Alrighty, let's start out with the top drawer here. On the left side, we've got all of my wireless microphones, an audio recorder here. This is a windscreen for my microphone. Over here, I've got a bunch of bits and screws and whatnot for mounting my camera in different places, like overhead right here. SD cards in this case, all my go-to cables, XLR cables here. Always gotta have some gaff tape. And then over on the side, I've got some tripod mounts, as well as my flip phone. If you remember the video I did where I used a flip phone for 30 days, still haven't gotten rid of it. I'm a bad minimalist. In this drawer, I've got all of my lenses right here, as well as my lens caps. This is really where the foam padding comes in handy, so these lenses don't move around when I open up the drawer. I've got my two cameras. That's the C70, that's my R5, where I take all my photos with. I'm using my C500 to shoot this shot. I've got my batteries in this nook, some Tiffin filters here. Oops, I hit the camera. And then I've got another microphone and a couple mounts in there. Down here, I've got my slider. So this is called the Rhino slider. It's how I got a lot of the moving shots in this video. The rails are back here, as well as the charging and motors and all that stuff. And down at the bottom, we've got my lights. This is my Aperture 120D. That's my favorite light. I use that for most of my shots and most of my videos. Over here, I've got a Lowell light, which is good for background stuff. It's really small, but it comes in handy. And then right here would be my other Aperture light. It's a little bit smaller. It would be here, but I'm using it to light this shot. So there you go. Over on the other side of my closet, I hang my stands from garage hooks. This took a little bit of planning as well as some trial and error to get it right. Not all stands are easy to hang, but when I found the right fit, it really helped to save a lot of space. And of course, I've got all my bags and a bin full of documents at the top. So down here in the bottom of my closet, I've got a couple of sound blankets. These things really come in handy whenever I'm shooting my videos. I'll hang one or two up, and it really helps to reduce the amount of echo in the room when I'm recording. So let me show you how this actually shows up behind the scenes in one of my videos. This is actually a shot that I used earlier in this video. Let me show you behind the scenes. So this is the sound blanket set up. I've got it on a Manfrotto boom stand pole behind me. And so the big benefit here is, one, it acts to reduce the overall bounce and noise in the room. And also, since it's black, it allows me to reduce the light spilling in from this side. It's actually two-sided. So there's one side that's white, one side that's black. So if I wanted more light, I could go the white side. I go the black side because I want to create some nice like shading on my face there, as you can see. Doesn't that look great? I mean, shit. It's almost like I should teach a course on this stuff. It feels really great to have a creative space set up for the first time in over a year. And now that it's all set up, it's time to move back to Australia. You might think that I am joking, but I am not. We are packing up now to head down to Sydney to live there for a few months. For those that are up to speed, you know that Nat and I have been doing this thing called home cycle, where we live in two different places and cycle back and forth. We started doing this in 2020, and after living out of an Airbnb for an entire year, we've started to figure out a system that's actually gonna work for us. I can talk more about that in future videos. But for now, I've got to pack. I've got to get ready to make the trip down there to Sydney. So I will see you down under, mate. I really need to work on that accent. Not good, not good. Hey.